Hello everyone, this is just a quick little voice note from me to say that this was streamed live, so that's why I refer to chat and stuff, and just to say that if you enjoy me reading this leak, feel free to subscribe. We're literally 10 subscribers away from 19,100, so any support would be greatly appreciated on that front. But with that said, I'll pass you on to past me. I wanted to read this because why not? And it's called Yet Another Doctor Who Leak, and it's posted by, or Yet Another Leak, and it's posted by Yet Another Leak 22 hours ago. When I say leak, but I imagine most of this is a bit obvious, as a leaker, I'm one of the knows a few people ilk rather than directly involved, so I only know broad strokes, rather than the exact intimate details of what will happen in Series 16, because I don't even think Russell knows that yet, lol. What I do know is the following. So basically the episodes filming right now are episode 4 and 5. That's what I've heard at least. I at least heard the name episode 4, or the phrase episode 4 being bandied about, so that makes sense. At least episode 4 is written by RTD, and I'm fairly sure it's a two-parter, based on what I've heard. I think it's apparent to anyone who's looked at the filming photos that it's basically an Aliens of London, Lazarus Experiment, Sontaran Stratagem type episode, where the companion returns to Earth after travels in time and space, okay? In regards to the politician angle, I do know that Roger character is working alongside those slug creatures we've seen from filming. I don't actually know, though, if the Kate Stewart Return to Earth episode, which I do know is episode 4, is the same episode, though, or if they are a two-parter. Okay. I also am of the understanding that the plot of episode 4 pertains to some degree people being on their phones and not observing the world around them. One of my people I know has read the script for the episode twice. First time they thought it was Riverdale-esque and not in a good way. Oh. But now they're saying RTD is a genius after having reread it. Make of that what you will. And as RTD said in DDM, Block 2 is the Christmas episode, but what he doesn't mention is that Millie Gibson's Ruby doesn't appear in the episode, and it's a temporary companion, much like some of the specials in RTD1. That's interesting. A temporary interim companion. That's very interesting. Interestingly, I don't know much about the centenary specials. I'm assuming they mean 60th. And just used the wrong word. I can say with pretty much certainty that the rumour of Bonnie Langford is true. We've heard the Bonnie Langford rumour a few times now, and that she'll appear in episode 2. It's also been suggested that she might be part of a unit spin-off, and I'm 99.9% sure Carol Ann Ford will appear as Susan at the end of the 60s specials, another rumour that I've heard as well, and that seems quite legitimate, before Tennant regenerates into Gatwa. The gist is that Tennant 14 is mortally wounded by the Toymaker. Then it seems like the Doctor will die before the Toymaker taunts the Doctor with a ghost of Susan, which somehow manages to convince the Doctor to regenerate again. It wasn't explained to me very well, but that's basically what I think they were telling me. In the other leak post, they mentioned about it being referred to Series 1. I'm pretty sure that's not true. However, internally it is being referred to as Series 1, the same way that Moffat did for Series 5, I believe. That makes much more sense to me. I literally know very little about Millie Gibson's portrayal of the new companion, aside from her apparently being very good. Helpful, I know, lol. Another thing which makes sense after I've explained Ncuti's interpretation. For Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor, I've heard a thing or two. I wouldn't be surprised if the gay angle was true, but I've actually heard far more about the black angle of the casting. And yes, that will explore the latter in either episode 4 or 5. One person mentioned it will be how the far-right organisation will interact with the Doctor when this comes into play. Oh, interesting. As for this interpretation of the Doctor, he's doing an interesting sort of balancing act, apparently. At once, it's a very flippant, witty performance, but at the same time, there's an age maturity to it and an odd kindness belying the flippancy. He can also be terrifyingly commanding, not even in a scary way, but an unusual, natural command. We're moving away from the social ineptness of Capaldi and Whittaker, I've been told, and more towards the kind of eccentricity that Tom Baker and David Tennant displayed. Supposedly a very similar scene to one from the Pirate Planet, where the Doctor yells at the captain, "What's it all for?" happens to the politician in the episode. Sorry if that's a bit of a deep cut. I have no idea the context for that scene, but there we are. However, in spite of this, the Doctor has a hope for humanity in a way, almost infantilizing them. A bit like in RTD's original era. However, and this is where the thing I mentioned about the new companion comes into play, Millie Gibson's character almost starts questioning this, especially as many of the episodes are highly critical of our modern world and the greed of humanity. I'm told that the series arc, if there is one, is basically that. Yes, it's completely nihilistic and pretty bleak, but I think it completely fits our modern world and RTD's vision for the show. Anyway, Sorry I haven't been saying anything interesting. No, I don't know if the Rani's coming back. I don't know if Sacha Dhawan will reprise his role as the Master. But regardless, to me, I think the new story arc should tell us far more about this new era. Will be like, rather than Omega is back. Precisely because this has said more reasonable things, and because it said things that I've heard kind of on the grapevine, and the way it's incorporated them sounds reasonable as well. I'm leaning more towards this having a lot more legitimacy than previous ones. Also, yes, do like the stream. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. But yeah, overall, I think it's really solid. I know a lot of people say fake, fair enough. I think it has some weight to it. I've heard a lot of the rumors about the social media angle, especially from people who apparently, you know, again, people who know people type thing. But it's, yeah, that's the thing. They've not been ridiculous or said, oh, the monk's coming back. Rassilon's coming back. They've been very, very kind of candid and said, look, here's what I know, here's what I don't. And those are the ones that tend to be more realistic. The Susan thing, her appearing as a ghost, that's the sort of minor cameo role that I would have expected her to play. Admittedly, I'd be a bit disappointed if that's all she did, if they did get Caroline Ford as Susan back, and they didn't really have a full-on reconciliation. However, at the same time, it is a good way of incorporating it into the current narrative, and like, if there's anyone that would encourage the Doctor to carry on moving forward, it would be his granddaughter. I also love the idea of them kind of getting a little bit away from the sort of, oh, I don't know how to deal with social situations, which honestly was kind of started with Smith, even though I love it. You know, with Capaldi Whitaker, or with Whitaker especially, that whole socially awkward thing did feel a bit played out to me, so I'm glad that we're sort of moving away from that angle. I think, I believe that. Yeah, the whole thing about an interim companion as well, I kind of believe. I'll be honest, I regard these Reddit leaks as the same as I regard pictures of real ghosts. You know what? That's a fair enough way of viewing them. The only reason I cover them is, like I say, I think they're fun to dissect. I also think sometimes they do have some weight behind them. And then sometimes they do not. But, you know, that's why we cover them, to find out which ones are the real ones and which ones aren't. But from my end, at least, that had a lot more weight to it than previous ones that I've read.